Okay, here in our episode 1, or lesson 1 as we call it at City Tech, lab, I'm going to walk through the entire assignment for our first week. And I'm going to do it a little bit compressed, but I'm really not going to skip too many steps. And what I do, I'm going to try and be as clear as I can about what it is I'm skipping and what you have to do. So we're starting out here in Blackboard, of course, ground zero for all our schoolwork, and I'm taking a look at the assignment for project 1, and I want to emphasize every project has requirements and a grading matrix at the top of Blackboard, but your starting point is really down at the bottom, and that is the lesson. So you can't do the project until you've done the lesson. I can't, yeah, I think I can say that. Even if you're experienced with HTML and CSS. So the lessons are short. There's some reading, there's resources, there's tutorials. They're quick. I think you can do them all in 40 minutes, if it takes that long. Then you're going to want to go back to the assignment and work your way through the process. So I'm going to definitely short circuit installing a code editor. I'm just going to show you where that's done. So there's 2 code editors that I recommend. One is Visual Studio Code. Comes from Microsoft, works in Windows, works on Mac, and you download it, you install it. That's the one I'm going to be using to demonstrate in this lab. The alternate is Brackets. It's good too, a little bit less intuitive than code, than the Microsoft one. Get that name, Visual Studio Code. Yeah, then Visual Studio Code. The advantage is it's essentially Dreamweaver. So it's like an open source version of Dreamweaver. Why would Adobe make an open source version of Dreamweaver available? If you're interested, post in the chat or ask me in class. It's an interesting story, but I'm not going to take time here in lab to go over it. So install one of those 2 code editors, and then you are on your way. Next step, there are a couple HTML tutorials. By the way, I installed, like I said, Microsoft's Visual Studio Code. And here it is with nothing in it. We'll come back to it shortly, but I just wanted to note that I had already done that. I'm going to take a look at the tutorials. Now, there's 2 tutorials in W3 Schools. W3 Schools is our go-to resource for code tutorials, and they always provide a lot of really cool, very intuitive, very well organized not just tutorials, but also templates. So if you click on Try It Yourself, you can see how this works. And you can even sort of begin to experiment with customizing your code. So for example, David K's song lyrics. Now this assignment, as you will read when you go through it carefully, is to present the song lyrics for 3 songs. Class appropriate, please, use your judgment. 3 song lyrics. So I'm going to update the title and I'm going to click on Run to see how that looks. Now, that particular change doesn't show up because the title of an HTML page appears in the title bar at the top of the page and doesn't actually appear in the page. But what I can do is list, I know my first song is going to be, I already thought this one through somewhat, Imagine by John Lennon. And I know I'm going to have paragraphs of content. So having gotten a start here in W3 Schools, I'm going to copy this content into my code editor. And I've got myself a start on my project. We'll come back to that a little bit later because there's another tutorial that I've got to look at, and that is how to use headings, paragraphs and line breaks. And I can see that paragraph has built-in spacing and a line break does not. Let's see if we can get down far enough to see an example of that. Not a real clear example here, but an explanation of the difference between a break and a paragraph. So I know I'm going to need both. Just to kind of build my page as I go, I'm going to, sorry about that, I'm going to go back into my code editor, and at the beginning of a stanza, it's just placeholder text, but still, I'm going to have line breaks for the first line, and I'm going to close that line break using the tips I get at W3 Schools, and another break for the second line. And then the second stanza will repeat, opening with a paragraph and finishing up with line breaks until we're ready for another stanza. So let me see where I'm at in the list of tasks now. I've got my basic coding set. Now it's time to look up the lyrics for my song, and here it is. It's nicely styled with font, background color, centering. We're not doing that yet, unfortunately. In fact, I'm making a mental note that I can't wait to learn how to do that kind of styling. So I'm going to pop that code, well, it's not code, it's just text, into my text editor, or my code editor rather, and then I'm going to go through and put paragraph breaks before and at the end of, paragraph. So I open the paragraph, I can get rid of my hints now. Open the paragraph at the beginning of the stanzas, and then a forced line break at the end of each line so that browsers will know, force another line, but we're not really at another paragraph. And I'm going to quickly do that for all the line breaks in my lyrics. Oh, not there. And then I'll do the paragraphs. So each stanza begins a paragraph. The lines in between the code, by the way, don't mean anything when you get into a browser. They're kind of helpful for us to organize the content, but they're not, they don't actually get reflected in a browser as, okay, and this is the end of a paragraph. So I think I've got my basic code. Let me go back and check in and see how I'm doing on the assignments. All right, I installed the code editor, check. I kind of fast-tracked through the resources in the lesson. I created one song. I think that might be all I do. I've got the title of the song with an H1 tag. Let me double check. H1 tag, yes, check, got it. Divided the lines and stanzas with paragraphs and BR tags as appropriate. Now I save it as lyrics.html, so tune in here, this is kind of important. When you save your file, create a file on your desktop that you're going to use, new folder, sorry about that, and I suggest calling it 2451. And then we were supposed to name this lyrics HTML. Notice there's no special characters here, there's no spaces, everything's in lowercase. That's the way file name should be. I went through that quickly, but make yourself a note. lowercase, no spaces, no special characters. Okay, and the file is saved. And now that my code editor knows that this is an HTML file, the code shows up as blue. If I had a code error, I'm going to get a hint because code will show up in red to let me know that I made a mistake somewhere. So that's one of the really great things about code editors. So I've saved my file now. Let's see where I'm at in the steps. The last thing I have to do is submit my homework, and I want to go over this a little bit carefully because you got to get it right or you don't get credit. And also it's an important learning experience. If you are submitting a project and you do all the work but you don't submit it properly, you might as well not have done all the work. So this is an important life lesson, so to speak. So I'm now going to go to the website I set up from 000webhost.com. And the instructions and advice for that are in the lesson part of Project 1, Episode 1 that I showed you. So I've gone ahead and set myself up with a website, and when I log in, there I am, logged in, I'll be the first to admit it's not the most intuitive website. It's really based on trying to sell you a paid website, but hey, that's the price we pay for our free website. So no, I'm not going to upgrade. I'm going to reveal the secret hidden link here. See, you have to hover over it to get to manage the website. So I'm going to manage my website, and there will be a couple details that you're going to want to pay attention to here. I'm looking for my file manager. I want to upload files. Anytime you want to do anything with files on your web server, you want to get to upload files. Now, everything that's going to be visible to the public is going to be in the public_HTML folder. If it's not there, then no one's going to see it. I've got tons of files here because I've been teaching this class since the 1860s, so, and a bunch of other classes too. But you won't have any other files, that's okay. You're going to click on the upload files, get it, the little up arrow pointing to the cloud, get it. You're going to select those files. I know a lot of people like to just drag them in, but I'm going to go navigate to them. And that's the lyrics.html file. And it's uploaded. They show up alphabetically. If you select the file and click on this little bent page thing here, you can see how it will actually look. Now, this is the internet. Guys, this isn't just your class computer. It's available to the public. The whole world can see it. And here it is. So I'm going to copy my URL, and that's super important because I require that as part of submitting your assignment. So let's now go back to Project 1, and I'm going to click on that project, and after carefully reviewing the requirements, I know it says 3, I only did 1, but we're trying to keep things a little concise here. So I'm going to upload that, or not upload, what am I saying? Scratch that. I'm going to provide a link to, here is my project 1, and provide a link. I will click on that link. I will open it up in a browser. If the link's not there, or if it doesn't go to the right site, 0 points. So don't do that. The other thing that you have to do, this is a requirement, is to post a narrative describing the experience of the assignment, why you did what you did, anything you learned, any obstacles you ran into. I composed mine in advance, and I suggest doing that, but you might want to freestyle it when you get around to submitting your homework. Again, I would suggest working this out in your word processors so you can really think about it. Okay, I guess I have to do Control V here. So here's my comments, and this is about the minimum that you're going to want to do when you submit a project. I want to get a good grade, so I want to make this really readable. So I'll give you a second to see the kind of things that I included. It's about 250 words minimum, I think. So you get a sense here of the kinds of things. You can hit pause if you're watching this in the video, and get a sense of the kind of thing I expect. Now, I actually wrote what I would have written. I didn't do 2 songs, only did 1. By the way, careful readers or people who are having their lawyer review this will note that I understand we are allowed to submit once before the deadline. So you can submit it once, and then you can submit it if you change your mind. Oh gosh, I should have done something different. You can submit twice. So take advantage of that loophole if you need to. And then I'm going to submit my homework, and that homework will show up. Make sure I get a submission confirmation number, copy it, save it to prove that you submitted the homework. I will review your homework, and I will next week be commenting on this week's assignment, and each week there will be a section of class when I share some of your work and critique it. So that's it. Post questions, book me for office hours, stay in touch with your classmates. I see we've gone over the 15 minutes that I wanted to spend on this, so I'm going to say goodbye and get back with you in class. And I think I've given you a pretty good introduction to submitting this assignment.